welcome back to Lovin Dubai show. Today is Wednesday. I am your host for today, Farah, and
I'm Parth. Nice to meet you.
hello. And we're coming with the top trending news stories for today. The UAE's FIFA World Cup dreams are still on despite the 2-1 loss to Qatar last night.
Abu Dhabi launches smartphone marriage service.
And a Dubai-based influencer suffered a panic attack mid-flight over body odor.
The UAE president is calling for rain prayer this Friday.
And later on, we're going to be joined by a lovely guest, a Sharjah mom who's sharing her journey on the Gaza aid flotilla.
So in today's rapid weather report, it's mostly sunny with temperatures ranging from 24 to 38.
28 to 34.
28 to 34.
It's a little bit, for me, we're not quite there yet.
I don't see a difference because it's hot regardless for me.
You
So
still feel like it's hot?
it is very hot.
Oh my god, it's been so much better though.
It's been a bit better in the evenings.
Right.
But like the only time I feel it's not hot is when I'm in office.
Oh, I understand.
Because the AC is on like full.
Guys, it's so cold in the office most of
But
the
like
time.
the moment like I go out, I feel extremely hot. I don't like the weather. I think it's
Really?
the humidity.
It's gonna get so much better.
Like,
We're still mid-October.
It does not feel October for me.
It's not feeling October, but we will get there eventually. Just like hopefully, inshallah, we're praying that the UAE makes it to the FIFA World Cup.
Yep.
Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so the UAE put up a tough fight against Qatar last night. The dreams are still on despite the 2-1 loss. So the UAE put up a tough fight against Qatar last night, but the home side was able to edge out a 2-1 win to seal their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualification. The UAE still has a chance to head to the World Cup, but it will be through intercontinental playoffs and not directly. So there is a bit of hope for the nation.
As for Qatar, this is their second time participating in this competition following the 2022 edition of the tournament where they were the hosts.
So
What can we expect? I am obviously not. Look, I like football, especially when it comes to World Cup. Other than that, I am not the biggest fan because I don't really understand this. So, take us through maybe what happened last night. What was it like?
So I'm a football fan. Yeah, the UAE they just needed a draw or a win to head to the World Cup in the USA next summer. They lost 2-1 to Qatar. It was goals from second half goals from Bolem Khoui and Pedro Miguel for Qatar, and UAE was able to get a goal back. So it was 2-1. It was a bit too late, and now they will have to go through the playoffs instead of directly going like through qualification. They'll have to play multiple teams. The next game is against Iraq, and it's obviously not like what we wanted. But
I know.
Like, yeah,
We were definitely hoping for qualifications from now, but now I guess it means that they're going to have to go through a couple more matches, right?
They'll have to play a couple more matches, basically playoffs against other continental teams as well, not just like from this region. And let's hope that they can at least get a win out of this, because UAE heading to the World Cup will be a very, very big feat for this nation.
I know, it would be so epic, and I feel like not just Emiratis, I feel like also residents are going to be rooting for the UAE, if their own country is not participating, of course, but I would definitely be rooting for the UAE if they make it into the World Cup.
For sure. My country is nowhere near the World Cup, so I will be rooting for UAE.
Yay! Let's jump into the next story. Abu Dhabi launches smartphone marriage services. Tell us all about it.
So Abu Dhabi has launched a groundbreaking new service allowing couples to get married entirely through their smartphones, according to a semaphore exclusive via Smashy Business.
Abu Dhabi now lets users marry via the TAM app, or TAMM, let's see how they name it, handling everything from ID checks to virtual ceremonies in a single day for 800 dirhams. For an extra 300 dirhams, couples can obtain a digitally attested marriage certificate valid internationally through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Oh, the move highlights Abu Dhabi's tech-driven push to simplify daily life, with experts calling it a natural step in the era of digital verification. TAM's digital marriage service is the first in this region, though similar systems exist in places like Utah and Ukraine. It's a very broad line, they're like extremely distant, where remote marriages were introduced to overcome logistical or wartime challenges.
It's very interesting, but I feel like it's coming in a very good time, digital age and everything. I don't know, it's giving me a little bit of like COVID vibe solutions.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But other than that, it's obviously a very like forward thinking thing, because sometimes when it comes to getting your marriage license, it's a bit of a complicated situation that you have to like fully understand. So I think
I just
Abu
want to know,
Dhabi
like,
is simplifying it.
How will the weddings be planned in this?
I don't know.
Like, I think it'll help a lot of people who want to have like a private wedding and don't want to bring guests over. Like, they just want to keep it to themselves. So like, it's like sending a text to someone.
Yeah, because ultimately the TAM app will handle from ID checks, so the very first basis and process of the getting your marriage license and certificate and everything, to virtual ceremonies. You can have a virtual ceremony. I feel like that's
Yeah,
very
imagine. I
futuristic.
just imagine like bringing like your friends on a call
I know.
for like a virtual ceremony, and then like you have some streaming service playing like the wedding music for you in the background and everything. I think it's the reason I think it's a nice idea is because it'll save up on a lot of money, not like in terms of like wedding.
That's true.
But imagine like your friends are staying abroad and like you have people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And it'll just like, you can just get on like a call and be like, hey guys, like what's up? I'm getting married. And everyone shows up on a call in like a tuxedo.
Just attending.
Yeah, like everyone, like this part will be a tuxedo, but it'll just be shorts after that.
Yeah. Pool shorts, I think. So I guess this is a very like, innovative way. Obviously, it's been done in Utah and Ukraine.
Yep.
The Ukraine one is kind of understandable because of wartime challenges, like we had said earlier, or logistics. Like, if you're having some sort of issues, this will kind of like make it a little bit easier. So it's nice to see.
It's just very convenient for couples.
Yeah, it is convenient. So if you're maybe eloping, this is a really nice idea. If you're not into doing the whole shebang. Speaking of shebang, a Dubai-based influencer suffered a panic attack mid-flight over body odor. So Manal Rustam, an athlete, motivational speaker, and an all-around powerhouse, shared a pretty raw story on her Instagram that a lot of people will relate to. She had a panic attack mid-flight on a 6-hour journey from Zanzibar to Dubai after what she described as a pungent body odor filled the cabin. Apparently, it got so bad that multiple passengers started spraying perfume to mask the smell. And that's when things escalated for her. A few hours in, Manal said she started to feel claustrophobic and short of breath, which quickly turned into a full-blown panic attack.
Thankfully, Fly Dubai crew stepped in to help. They gave her space, brought her food and water, and tried to calm her down with a bit of humor. Her sister and friend were also right by the side.
Manal later posted about it, thanking the crew for their kindness and saying it's 2025, time to break the taboo and actually speak up when someone's body odor is affecting others. It's a reminder that travel can be stressful. Small things can trigger big emotions, and kindness, whether from a stranger or a sibling, makes all the difference. And I feel like when you're stuck in a cabin,
a very small space. Very small space.
You do not want to have to suffer for however long your flight journey is.
Yeah, because even
smelling something that isn't pleasant
at all. It's
hard.
my mind is just stuck on the fact that they try to cheer her up with humor. Like, what jokes could you make to a person who is
for someone, I guess, who's having a panic attack in this situation? Because obviously, it's not.
Yeah, you're trying to distract them from like
you're just trying to distract them from
is going on.
The reality of the situation.
But I think like doing it with smell is completely different, because like you can remove the mental thing from your mind, but you cannot remove the smell from the cabin.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
But I remember.
Like imagine laughing, but like with your nose just like this.
Oh.
Horrible experience.
And like sometimes when you're trying to mask a bad smell, it makes it worse. It kind of brings it out more.
Yep.
That must have been a horrible situation.
And like it affects your breathing and all that sort of thing. So it's a very good thing that the Fly Dubai crew were there for her.
Oh yeah, that's really sweet.
And they were checking on her constantly, and obviously she had other people on her side. But it's a very horrible situation to be in.
What we saw a lot in the comments when we posted about the story was people were saying, guys, it's 2025.
Yep.
Talks about hygiene should not be taboo anymore. Everybody like go on the internet and you will find solutions left, right, and center.
Yep.
If you're struggling with body odor for you know, for whatever reason, because there are multiple reasons, but it's, you know, we're so far advanced into the future now that this shouldn't be a problem anymore.
Yeah, it should.
There's so many solutions.
It's like it should have not really been a news piece.
I know,
Should
right?
have been solved on the spot within like a couple of minutes and everything is sorted. But like here we are talking about it.
That's what makes it very interesting, I think. But props to Manal Rustam for even talking about it and putting it up on the internet for people to talk about, because it's not easy, I think, to admit or to say I suffered from a panic attack on a plane because of something like this. It takes a lot of guts and courage.
It's a lot of courage to come out and say that.
Yeah,
yes.
because I'm sure she would have been maybe expecting some negative comments like, oh, get over it. But people were actually praising her and saying, yes, thank you for talking about this, because this can be an issue.
This is a discussion that needs to be spoken about, because as you said, it's a lot of people treat it as a taboo. They're saying that, okay, like it's something you can brush off, maybe you can just like cover your nose for a few minutes and then it'll be good later on.
Yeah.
But there are people who genuinely do have to deal with this, and like they can feel like shortness of breath. Some people feel dizzy because of this. I mean, like quite some people, like they have this entire thing where they like start feeling dizzy because of constant
and
bad
nauseous
smell.
and stuff.
Yeah, it can just, one thing can lead to another. So it's better to just take precaution, just take care of yourself, hygiene. Everyone has different issues.
Do it for yourself, but do it for the people around
like,
you.
Yeah, like do it for yourself, but also like have that courtesy, because you are going in a public space, not going like a massive venue as well. You're going like a very small cabin.
It's tight.
Like as it is, people don't have spaces to keep their hands and legs
exactly.
properly,
You're
and
already
then,
uncomfortable. Traveling is stressful.
you just want to get from point A to point B fast. So
exactly. So, you know, be considerate and do your best as much as you can. Do some research if need be. Okay, jumping into the last story for today before we go on to the guest segment. The UAE president is calling for rain prayer this Friday. So President His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has called for a prayer for rain, known as Salat al-Istisqa, to be held across all mosques in the UAE this Friday, October 17th, about half an hour before the regular Friday prayer. Now, if you're not familiar, Salat al-Istisqa is a special Islamic prayer performed when rain is scarce. It's a way for the community to come together and humbly ask Allah for mercy, blessing, and rainfall. It's a practice rooted in the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who would lead this prayer during times of drought.
The President's call is not just about asking for rain, it's also a reminder of unity, humility, and gratitude. So this Friday, people all across the UAE will gather in mosques to pray for rain and for blessings.
It's really sweet. Because I'm personally someone who loves rain. So
I think it's a lot of people in the UAE because like you don't get it as much.
Yeah, we just don't get a lot of rain.
It was raining like over the weekend, and a lot of people were like extremely ecstatic, if I were to say.
I know, that was me.
I went from a balcony, I saw it was raining. I just went downstairs from my building and I was just standing.
Yeah.
And then I went back in because my hair was wet.
Hair is wet now, but that's not from the rain.
But it's very good.
I want it to be. The thing is, I really I don't know. Rain makes me just so happy, and I feel like a lot of people in the UAE, maybe people who are not originally from rainy countries, maybe people from the UK predominantly, I think they're like, oh no, we love when it's sunny in Dubai.
Yeah,
I feel the opposite. I want like those dark clouds. I want the rain. I want it all.
Especially if you're born and brought up here, even if you're like an Indian or like from whatever country, you'll realize the value of rain when it is July. And then like if it rains as well, like nowadays, like it was a bit humid on Sunday when it rained.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I miss the rain even more now.
Yeah.
So it's a nice thing that's being done.
Yeah.
It's obviously everybody just wants better weather. They just want to enjoy this last 3 months of the year.
Yeah. We want it to rain now. It's October. We need the fall weather.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so this is why the president of the country is inviting you to join Salat al-Istisqa, which is the prayer for rain. October 17, it's this Friday. It's right before the Jumu'ah prayer, so keep that in mind. And later on in the show, we're going to be joined by a Sharjah mom who is sharing her story on the Gaza aid flotilla. Stay tuned. We will be back shortly. Welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show. Today's guest is Dr. Zahira Sumar, a UAE-based educator and activist who joined the global Sumud Flotilla to deliver aid to Gaza. Her boat was intercepted at sea and she was among those kidnapped by Israel before being released. Welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you and have this discussion today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So how did the flotilla organizers reach out to you?
So I've been very active in the Palestinian movement. I used to stay in Canada. So I'm South African and Canadian. For the past couple of years, I've been living in Canada. And since I've always been active on the Palestinian movement, but especially over the last 2 years. So I'm very well known kind of amongst the activist movement. And I was also meant to join the flotilla leaving from Turkey in 2024 that didn't actually leave. And so I know many of the people involved in this movement and the global Sumud Flotilla, both from the Global March to Gaza as well as the Freedom Flotilla as well as kind of the Sumud convoy. So when this came up and I got a phone call to say, do you want to join? The answer was absolutely yes. Do you even need to ask? So, yeah.
So, obviously it was very, very courageous. Obviously, so what made you decide to, or what was the final click in your mind that I am going for this and nobody will stop me from it?
Yeah, honestly, I know so many people say it's courageous and brave. I don't feel like that. At least personally, for me, it wasn't something courageous and brave. I think I just felt it as a sense of duty. The things that I've done over the past couple of years for the Palestinian movement, there's been a lot of sacrifices. I've lost jobs over it. I've been arrested. I've received death threats. I've received rape threats. I've had to have criminal charges laid. I've had police outside my house. And so for me, it was a case of we're doing all of these things and the genocide is still continuing and people are starving. And it just needed a little bit of insanity and something insane to be done. So I don't see it as something brave or courageous. It was just like, we need to take this further and we need to do something more. And this was something more. when I got contacted, for me it was an immediate yes, but I did have to have those conversations with my family, which took a few days, and I think it wasn't the easiest thing for them to agree to or even come to terms with, and I'm not sure that they ever did, but I think the decision was harder for my family than it was for me.
Were they super apprehensive about you joining?
Absolutely. My husband, till yesterday when so I arrived back yesterday, so I hadn't seen him for 6.5 weeks, including my kids. So when I arrived back yesterday, he still told me, it's not something that I wanted you to go on. And he said that right in the beginning. He said, I don't want you to go on, but I also am not going to say no, because I know the type of person that I married, and I know this has been something that you've been fighting for long before I even got married to you. My mom was super worried. Like the day I told her, which was 2 days before I left, I phoned her and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And her words were, you can go to Tunis and you can help, but you are not getting on a boat. And I went to Tunis. And I think while I was there, both my husband and my mom kind of realized the sense of, that I felt a bit more from it, from a sense of duty than anything else. And by the time I left, they just said to me, may Allah be with you, what you're doing is something good and needs to be done. My kids were super supportive though. So they were just like, yes, mommy, go, but don't die.
Children are fearless.
They are.
You've described this as a spiritual calling, and you felt a sense of duty to do it. Can you unpack what that means for you personally?
Yeah. Look, I think firstly that this is not a brown issue, and I don't think that this is a Muslim issue. I think that this is a humanity issue. However, I will say this, that everybody draws from different things for this mission. I was in a cell with 14 other women, and I was the only Muslim woman. And so my inspiration, or at least my sense of duty, comes a lot from my religion and from Islam, thinking about the day of Qiyamah and just thinking about my akhirah and how I'm going to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one day and say, what did I do and what was I able to do, and therefore how did I use my skills and my resources and what I could. And even on the boat and even in the prison, a lot of my peace or contentment or even just my sanity came from just surrendering to Allah and just putting my complete trust and safety in Him. But that wasn't the same for everybody else, because most of the people in my cell were not religious people or God-fearing people. Some of them were atheists, some of them were Buddhists. So people draw inspiration from different places. For me, it definitely was spiritual and religious, but for others, it wasn't.
So obviously, it was a very long journey, mentally and physically. Could you please give us a little glimpse of what life was like while you were on board?
Yeah, like I said, it was 6.5 weeks. The first 2 weeks we were in Tunis. Tunis was very frustrating, for lack of a better word. It was just, it was great, but it was frustrating. There was a lot of solidarity, people coming from 47 different countries, you meeting them, having the same purpose and mission in mind. But there was a lot of clashes, there was a lot of logistical issues, there were a lot of delays, complexities, uncertainty as to who's going to get on a boat and who's not, and everybody coming there wanting to get on a boat. And we had a lot of boats that were just breaking down and not seaworthy as well that were bought. And so there was almost the sense of, I want to get on a boat, but not everybody's going to get on it. And so trying to also find meaning in that this is not about you as an individual, this is about the mission, and trying to put the mission first before yourself. So there was a lot of that challenge. Then we were at sea for just over 3 weeks, and that was challenging as well. I have a very big fear of the ocean and a fear of drowning. So for me, this is different. I do hard things. I climb mountains, and I'm trying to do some of the summits. But so it's not that I don't do difficult things, but I have a fear of the ocean and I have a fear of drowning. And a lot of the times I feared I would die from drowning, especially at night when we had drone attacks, knowing that our boat could be attacked, capsized. And we always said, one of the trainings that we got was, the chances of you falling overboard at night and being saved is very slim, because you're going through storms, it is pitch dark, and the seas can just take you. So that was something really difficult to deal with. And then we had interception and detainment and imprisonment, which was a different difficulty. There was an element of control. You were not at sea anymore, but there was an element of being in a captive and just being amongst an entity or a Zionist entity that you just didn't know what was going to play out. And so I just think every portion of it, there was a level of difficulty and it was different and it weighed you down. The level of exhaustion that you got to, I can tell you there were times on the boat and times in the prison where I just felt, I don't know if I can go another day. I just didn't.
We were following your story almost from the beginning up until you guys were kidnapped, and that's when
everything went.
You were silent, and we were all just kind of hoping and praying. When that happened, did you ever feel like have a fear that you might not come back?
I did. The day of interception, I was one of the last boats to get intercepted, our boat. So it happened in broad daylight for us. So there was an element where we didn't. I think if you get intercepted at night, it's a lot more fearful because you don't see a lot. There's also this thing of you don't want to have a phone in your hand or anything in your hand so it doesn't get construed as a weapon and you don't get attacked. In broad daylight, you obviously see everything, so it feels a lot calmer. The day of interception for me was relatively calm. I mean, there was a lot of fear as to what would happen to me, but me and my boatmates tried to stay calm so that we could manage the situation. I think once I got off onto that port in Ashdod, the immediate treatment I received, I remember feeling exceptionally scared at that point. I was so taken aback and shocked. And at that point, I think I felt the highest level of fear that I'm either going to get seriously brutalized or I might not return. I didn't know what my future looked like. And there was a point in prison where I felt like that as well. So yes, definitely, there were elements of I didn't know what was in store for me and I didn't know when and if I got back.
So while you were on board, did you receive any threats while also being on board or before going on board?
Yeah, we did. So we were told before we even boarded our boats while we were in Tunis, we were told, there were statements coming out of the state of Israel saying that you will be treated as terrorists, you are being associated with Hamas, you will receive the highest level of detention, and you will be treated that way. When we were on the boat, we were given similar threats and we were told, you will be struck with drones, we will attack you. So there were many of these threats, and I think it was to try and obviously scare you and deter you, right? From even going on this mission. So yes, that came all the time.
What were the preparations like before you took on the journey? And did you have preparations if the boat was going to be intercepted?
There were. So, I think there were preparations before you even left to Tunis, as in mentally preparing yourself, just in terms of what you're about to undergo. Most of the people who got selected for this mission are people who have been long-standing activists and have been through some level of difficulty on this. So it's people who have maybe been arrested before, maybe been detained before, maybe have faced harsh treatment, maybe have faced threats, etc. People who have a particularly strong mind that might be able to withstand whatever comes their way. So there was a psychological assessment that was done prior to even being told you can have a place on the boat. And then there was your own prep, right? So things like we were told you can take 10 kgs of stuff. So you had to really think about what you took and what you didn't take.
Be
and
very
this was
picky about what you could take.
Exactly. You had one backpack. What do you put in that backpack? And you don't know how long you're gone for, right? And then when we were in Tunis, there was a lot of training around legal, just around understanding your legal rights and what might happen to you and what you can ask for and what you can't ask for. There was a lot of media training around, how to create awareness about this journey and how do you speak about it so it does support the plight of the Palestinians. And then there was a lot of non-violence training. One of the biggest things about this mission is that it was a non-violent humanitarian mission. And the people that came on board, while many of us have a level of anger or upsetness, you had to be on board with the fact that this was a non-violent, humanitarian, non-political mission, and you had to stick with that.
You were kidnapped and later released through the Jordanian border. Yes. What can you share about that experience and how you were treated at that point? Yeah,
I think part of the thing that we got as South Africans, I had a decision to make prior to going on the boat whether I go with my South African passport or my Canadian passport. And the decision was, as a Canadian, I probably would have gotten treated better in prison because of my passport, because of the links between the state of Israel and Canada. But when I approached the Canadian government, I was told that we don't support you going. And so I worried about my legal representation and the fight they would have for me once I'm in prison. South Africa was the complete opposite. As a South African, I knew I would get treated harshly, but I knew there was an army of lawyers that would fight for me to get out. So ultimately, I chose to go with my South African passport. That meant my treatment in prison was harsher. So when people were leaving from day 2 onwards on airlines, so for example, Turkish Airlines, Greece Airlines, they sent charter flights to get people out of prison, all nationalities. South Africans were not given the opportunity to jump on that flight. So we watched people leave day by day by day, and we worried and wondered what's going to happen to us. We were also not allowed access to our consulate in the first few days. While we saw every other nationality meet their embassy and their consulate, we didn't. And that really did leave us worrying as to, are we going to get our rights? Are we going to see our consular? Will we leave? If and when will we leave? And we were told, and then it was approaching 7th of October, which was also a day that we were then worried about, because would they use us to make as an example of, that day? But we were told on the night of the 6th of October, you potentially might leave that morning. That morning at 4 a.m. they woke us up and they said, we're taking you out. And we weren't told where. So we didn't even know how we were leaving. So we got taken to the border. We got put in a truck, a military vehicle. We got taken to the border of Oman with the Mexicans and the Colombians. And we were dropped off at that border. And that's where our consular services came to fetch us. So look, it was a big relief, but it was until we got to that border, we just didn't know what was the plan.
You didn't know what you were going to walk into.
You just go with the flow, right? So.
Yeah.
So we all know that the purpose and the goal of the Flotilla was ultimately that it was to deliver humanitarian aid. However, that the officials claim that there was little to no aid on board. So would you like to say anything about that?
There was a lot of aid. I think there was over, I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it was millions of dollars worth of aid, and I think it was over 300,000 tons or something to that effect across the 47 boats. And in addition, the Turkish government sent aid on their ship, which they delivered to us 2 days before interception as well. I think what we do want to establish and make clear is that we didn't have enough aid that was going to be enough for everybody in Gaza. That was never the aim, and that was never the purpose, right? It wasn't going to be a substantial amount of aid, but it also wasn't a little aid. It was a decent amount of aid, and it was the right type of aid to help with the man-made famine and starvation. There was a lot of medication, a lot of things that health workers needed in order to help with malnutrition, in order to help with the people's health impacts and the incidents and the bombings and things that were taking place. Was it going to be enough for everybody? No. But that was never going to be the case. But the idea was to break that illegal siege, establish a humanitarian corridor, and then have more ships of aid come through that humanitarian corridor, enough for the people of Gaza. That was the purpose.
Did you know that Israeli officials were claiming that there was little or almost no aid on board? How would you respond to that?
We knew that was going to happen. I mean, this is typical propaganda. We knew that this was going to happen. They did it with the Handela and the Madeleine and previous flotillas as well. So we had prepared for this. What we did was every single one of our boats took videos of the aid on board. I remember specifically making a video on my boat showing videos of where the aid is, where they are on board, etc. I got switched to a different boat towards the end. I was on a sailboat towards the end, and I remember when I went on that boat, the first thing I said is, where's the aid? And let's bring it all together, and let's keep it on the, in the middle, so it's not hidden away. And we had it. We lived amongst it. There was, I think, 6 or 7 boxes of aid. So yes, we know these claims are going to be made. We have proof of all the aid that was on board. I can tell you for my boat specifically, our boat got sunk in front of us. And so that aid is sitting at the bottom of the ocean, lost. But no, there wasn't a little aid. And we do have proof of all the aid that was on board. And the Turkish government has proof of all the aid that they delivered to us as well.
That's good.
Now that the ceasefire is in place, as ordinary people, what can we do to make sure Gaza is obviously not forgotten? Because everyone's been labeling different things here and there, making claims left, right, and center, which are obviously untrue. Yeah. So, what can people do to make sure that this is not forgotten, and mainly from like a humanitarian standpoint, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the ceasefire was called for, but in the past 24 hours, there have been killings and bombings again. So it's not being honored. And I think the thing that we need to remember is there's been multiple ceasefires over the past 2 years that have been called for. They have not been honored. So one is, don't be fooled just because a ceasefire is called for. People are still dying on a daily basis. I mean, as journalists like yourself, you saw that Salih was killed 2 days ago, and that was just horrific in and of itself. We're still seeing medical doctors, journalists being killed. I think for me, the thing is, there's a number of things that need to be happening, right? One is a ceasefire does need to be called for. We're now seeing the release of hostages, which is great. I mean, and we're seeing hostages that were in prison for 20, 22 years, subhanAllah. And you see they can barely even walk. So we need to continue fighting for those hostages to be released. Third is, in the ICJ, there was a ruling that humanitarian aid needs to be entering Gaza. That isn't happening as it is, and we need to be getting that in. And that's not just food, but that's health care and that's health support, right? People are dying and people are injured and they need proper health care. So we need to be calling for that humanitarian corridor to be established, to be honored per the international court ruling. The least that can be done is do that. And then ultimately, a stop to the genocide and ultimately some sort of agreement or liberation or freedom for the people of Palestine. Their journey needs to change. And we need equality and equity for them, and we need to see a free and liberated Palestine. Whatever that solution looks like, their pain needs to stop.
100%. And I feel like you've said it all. Is there anything additional that the ordinary people can do to make a difference?
A lot. And I was saying this in South Africa for the past week when I was there. There's a number of things. Everybody says, you did what we couldn't do, or you taking this movement forward. But you don't need to jump on a flotilla, right? That's like insanity. And there's some things that we are planning to do that are insane. The average person, which I include myself in, doesn't, if we all did our part, we wouldn't have to do these insane things. So, you don't need to jump on a flotilla to fight for Palestine or to fight for human rights. There's a lot that we can do. For example, let's start with boycotting, right? We know the organizations that send funds to Israel, and we know that who funds weapons, not just weapons to Israel, but even Sudan, Congo, any war-torn country. Put a stop to that. We as consumers have a very big power around how we shop and where we shop and where we spend money. Use that power. That alone, when you look at anti-colonial history or anti-apartheid history, economic ties and boycotting plays a very big role. So that's the first thing. Number two is look at economic ties and sanctions. What do we need to cut? Where do we need to kind of put pressure? And then third, governments can do better. All of our governments, whether it's in the case of political pressure, whether it's in the case of humanitarian aid, governments can play a role in helping the people of Palestine. And globally, we should be asking our governments to play a bigger role.
Dr. Zahira, thank you so much for your time. I feel like we learned a lot, and your story was very harrowing, but also additionally as inspiring. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we've come to the end of the Lovin Dubai show, and we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, 8:30. See ya.
Thank you.